And I'm live. I'm a decoder. I've decoded everything from Hollywood movies to this and that. And in this video, I'll be sharing the decode. I ordered on the decode of Metal Gear Solid. So Metal Gear Solid 1, hidden plain view truth. Kojima has hidden truth in plain view in his video games before, which is part of what I've been teaching people. That in this world, pop culture is loaded with hidden plain view truth. So here's my decode. Metal Gear Solid 1. Solid Snake is a type of Christ. See? And I made videos on this before, but I'm gonna make a video on that topic again. Metal Gear Solid 1 decoded. Solid Snake is a type of Christ. And I'll do this from memory, and maybe another video I'll show you things. Now, the plot of Metal Gear Solid 1 is what? Solid Snake goes on a rescue mission to what? Shadow Moses Island. Shadow Moses Island. Now, the reason I can decode this is because of the Bible, having Bible verses in my mind. The sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, Hebrews 4:12. So the reason I'm able to cut to the surface level and discern the deeper layers like an onion is because I have enough Bible verses in my mind. See? So Solid Snake is the type of Christ. Metal Gear Solid 1, what is the plot? Solid Snake is a man of war, okay? The Lord is a man of war, the Bible teaches. Solid Snake is a man of war, okay? A warrior. He goes on a rescue mission, salvation mission, to save the world pretty much, because on Shadow Moses it's like nukes and stuff like this. So there's some kind of thing where the risk is it can become a huge issue. The terrorists have nukes or something like this, some kind of super weapon. So basically, Solid Snake, which is the protagonist that you play as in Metal Gear Solid 1, he goes on a rescue mission to save human life. See, that's a mission. Where? Shadow Moses Island, which is in the wilderness. Wilderness, what does that mean? The one in the wilderness, there's no way. Which means Shadow Moses Island in the video game universe. It's a secluded area. It's in the wilderness, in nature. It's not in a city where they have roads and high rise and stuff. It's in the middle of nowhere, in the wilderness. So, Snake, Moses, wilderness, see? For as Moses lifted up the serpent, snake, and this is so undeniable. Meaning, it's like I make these videos, and since I'm right, sooner or later, some people will wake up to it. See? So, snake, serpent. Snake equals serpent. Snake is a word, modern word for serpent, okay? For as Moses lifted up the serpent, where? In the wilderness. Even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoso believes in him should not perish but have lasting life. So Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid 1, what is the plot? Solid Snake, modern word for serpent. Snake goes to Shadow Moses Island on a rescue salvation mission to save human life. And part of the plot, Snake gets captured and lifted up on a torture device where he has to endure torture to save Miro. And it's a good and a bad ending. So if you fail the torture test where you get lifted up on like an X, like some kind of machine, you get captured, spoiler alert, Snake, and you have to like stay in the fight. And if you fail that, there's a bad ending where Miro dies. So Snake is a type of Christ. Metal Gear Solid decoded. Metal Gear Solid decoded. Now we'll go to teaching aids. Okay. Gotta pull things up. I have to work from memory. Here we go. Here. Gear Solid 1. I'm pulling things up here. Yeah, so my decode, Metal Gear Solid 1 decoded. Hidden Playview Truth these references. So solid snake is a type of Christ. And he's a person, a man of war. The Lord is a man of war, the Bible says. His name is Snake. He gets sent on a saving mission. So his mission is not just to go kill everybody. His mission is to save human life. That's a purpose. He goes to Shadow Moses Island to save human life, to rescue people, to save human life, to prevent people dying. And one part of God, he gets captured, lifted up on a rig where he gets electrocuted. So he gets lifted up and endures torture as part of his mission of saving human life. And if you fail the test, the torture test, there's somebody dying. And if you succeed, you save a human life. See? So here we go. I'm gonna screen share here. Entire screen. Here we go. Metal Gear Solid 1. Here. Metal Gear Solid is in 1998 actor. Okay. Snake. Players control Solid Snake. Modern word for serpent. For as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So Snake goes to Shadow Moses Island. So Moses, if you know the Bible, John chapter 3, for as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, serpent, snake. That was a foreshadow, pre-type, a type of Christ. See? So in John chapter 3, Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness was a foreshadow of Christ. See? Moses' shadow. So in John chapter 3, Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness saved, the Lord sent 5 serpents among the people. So basically the Jews, they were in the wilderness, having left Egypt and were on the way to Promised Land. They angered the Lord, and the Lord sent 5 serpents among the people. People were bitten, and they were dying. And then Moses was told by God to make a serpent, a brazen serpent, and hold it up. And whoever looked on it was saved from death. See? So in John chapter 3, Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness, that's a foreshadow. Moses was foreshadowing the work of Christ, who was lifted up on a cross, and people need to look to the finished cross work of Christ to live. See? John 3, 14-20. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness is nature, okay? Even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believes in him should not perish. So Moses lifted up the serpent, old word for snake, in the wilderness was a foreshadow of Christ being lifted up on the cross. Snake, Metal Gear Solid plot, Snake, who's a man of war, the Lord is a man of war. Snake goes on a mission to save human life. That's what it boils down to. There's no killing, but like the mission, the reason it goes is to prevent disaster and a lot of people die. So Snake goes to Shadow Moses Island. See? Solid snake, serpent. Serpent, wilderness, Shadow Moses. See? I cracked the code. See? I've decoded music videos, Hollywood movies, video games. And I made the first video like this, sharing this with people. What, 3 years ago? So, I'm right. And it's natural boldness come with that. And people go, oh, this guy's nuts because you're dumb. Or you don't want to see the truth. But eventually, I keep making videos like this. There's going to be some people that see, you know. So, for as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, if you know your doctrine, you know that Moses in the wilderness lifted up the serpent was a foreshadow of Christ. I didn't come up with that term. You can search foreshadow Bibles for this. And it's like a known concept that God worked with shadows, types and shadows. foreshadowing, where Job was a foreshadow of Christ too, a pre-type, which means he was a type of Christ before Christ showed up. See? Which means Job was suffering not for sinfulness, but for righteousness' sake. So Job was another type of Christ. And there's more clear types, obvious types in the Bible, and more words of wise dark sayings. They're like harder to see. You might have to read the Bible 100 times so on to go, I get it, that this is okay. So anyway, Samson was also a type of Christ, a foreshadow. And I've talked about this before. So Samson, gates of the city, we took 2 gates of the city, 2 pillars, and he bound himself down with all his might. Now, if you have like a gateway, 2 pillars, or 2 pillars that you bound on, what's that? If you have 2 pillars, Samson, you rearrange them, becomes a cross. See? So Samson was also a foreshadow of Christ. And notice how this similarities, where Samson was a man, or was a mighty man. For this caused it to destroy the works of the devil. So Samson was a physical, like he was working physically. He was causing physical destruction. He was working to destroy a physical building made by the Philistines, the enemies of God. See? And he bowed himself in all his might and caused great destruction. And the people that he slayed in his death was more than people saved in his life. Now that was a foreshadow of Christ who destroyed spiritually the works of the devil. And Samson's last moment was before he died, a sacrificial death. Was he prayed to God to give his strength back to him. And then he has let me die with the Philistines. He was designed to die to accomplish his work. See? And he bowed himself down with all his might. See? Christ, when he was lifted up on a cross, he prayed to God, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And then he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. See? So bowed. So both men's final moments were praying to God and then bowing. Christ bowed his head, gave up the ghost. Samson bowed himself down with all his might. So, snake, solid snake. The Bible teaches that Moses was leading God's people through the wilderness. But they wanted the wilderness, but there's no way. They were walking through the wilderness. Moses was guiding them. And at a certain point in time, the snakes, the Lord sent fire serpents. There were snakes that were biting the Jews in the wilderness. And they were dying. And God told Moses to make a serpent, a brazen serpent, and lift it up. And he lifted it up. And the people that were in the wilderness dying, if they looked to the brazen serpent that Moses had lifted up, they were saved. See? For as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So what Moses did, lifting up the serpent in the wilderness, was a foreshadow of Christ being lifted up. See? So, Metal Gear Solid plot synopsis: Solid Snake, man of war, goes on a mission to shadow Moses Island. Serpent. Snake goes to shadow Moses Island. Snake goes to shadow Moses Island on a mission to save lives. At one part of the plot, Snake gets captured. I think it might be Revolver Ocelot or somebody. He gets captured. He gets lifted up on some kind of torture device. I think it might be an X, or he gets lifted up or something. And he gets electrocuted. He gets lifted up and endures torture. And then when you're playing the game, you have to keep pushing buttons to prevent dying from the torture, like to endure it. If you fail, there's a bad ending and Meryl dies, I think. If you succeed, there's a woman that gets saved. She's alive. So, and it's mostly lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even someone. So I can just give you the short, and I can write books on this and sell it to you if you want to give it like the deep stuff. A lot of stuff I've been sharing for free. I could have made money writing books on it. See? So, and as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. I mean, I could write like Christology in pop culture or something like this. A book by Mike Sah, or like a study in typology or something like this. Yeah. But I'll be giving it to you for free. So you should appreciate it. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, Shadow Moses Island. Where is Shadow Moses Island in the Metal Gear Solid universe? In the wilderness. It's not in a big city, it's in the wilderness. Okay. Let's search shadow. Shadow of things to come. The shadows in the Bible. Colossians 2:17, which are shadow of things to come. The things in the Bible are shadow of things to come. And Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness was a foreshadow of the work of Christ, the work of Christ. So let's go to YouTube here. 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 So notice how it's been lifted up, and look at his arms. It's a cross. So snake is part of the plot, as I told you. Solid snake, serpent, wilderness, Shadow Moses Island. So the plot is Solid Snake gets sent to go to Shadow Moses Island. Is the place that the game takes place in most of it. You go to Shadow Moses Island, and part of the plot, you, snake, serpent, is lifted up and then tortured, which is referencing the work of Christ. See? Wilderness, serpent, Shadow Moses Island. So it's referencing John chapter 3, which is referencing Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness, which was a foreshadow of Christ, finished work being lifted up. What is the lifting up referencing? Well, Christ was lifted up on the cross, endured torture. See? He's lifted up, restore life. So, less than 20 minutes, another decode, Mike said decode. Solid Snake is a type of Christ. And the hidden plain view truth, Metal Gear Solid 1 plot, there's a lot of hidden plain view truth references to the Bible. If you know the game well enough, you know the Bible well enough, it should be plain to see. So the reason a lot of people can't see what I'm seeing when I look at movies, it's not just that they have like a low IQ, the sugar brain, like zombies, like low-minded. It's more mission they lack knowledge. They don't have Bible verses memorized. They don't remember things, okay? So if you remember the plot of a game and you remember Bible verses, it's easy to see the truth. So let's compare the video.